Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. And today I first want to start off by congratulating the winners of the inter-college sports yesterday. The St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School in the boys division, and in the girls division, the St. David's Catholic Secondary School. But I want to compliment all of the athletes. You know, I looked at it and I said, I remember the days when it was either, it was between convent and high school or GBSS. It was first GBSS and PBC, GBSS and SAS. And that was it. And they were the ones that was on the podium full time. You know, one or two others. But today we see Boca Secondary, Happy Hill Secondary, St. Rose Modern Secondary, Shaper, the two schools in Carriacou. I mean, impressive. And I like that. And it means that the thing is spread throughout the island and even in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And it's a good thing. The competition was fair. The other schools that like the outer schools, they're there and they stick into it. They're not giving up, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing for sports on the island. So I want to compliment all of the athletes. You all are winners. Even Westmoreland name getting called in there, you know, and it's in the finals in some of the events, and that's a really, really good thing. The new schools, the Christian Academy and Gateway Christian Academy, the private schools, and they're called winning gold medals as well. And that is a good thing, I say. That is a really good thing. Congratulations to all the schools. But of course, we compliment more the winners. St. David's Secondary for the girls, Catholic Secondary, and SAS for the boys. GBSS coming next year for y'all. We'll take a quick break and come right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. I first want to deal with a pressing issue that has been casting a shadow over a beautiful island. The alarming rise of sexual violence over the years and in recent times. This disturbing increase in incidents of sexual assault is affecting families and the communities alike, and sparking a nationwide call for action. Our goal on Simon Says is not just to inform, but to ignite a movement towards creating a safer environment for all. Join us as we explore this critical issue, seeking solutions, and give a voice to those who have been silent for too long. We join with the Prime Minister in answering to one of his questions at his press conference on Tuesday, March the 12th, 2024, in advocating for stronger penalties for offenders.
In light of what would have transpired on the sister island of Carriacou, Prime Minister, my question is for you. Could we see a move towards stiffer penalties or adjustments to the penalties with regards to sexual offenses?
Well, I certainly support stiffer penalties for sexually related offenses, because I think it's one of the areas where you will tend to find when it happens that the offender is likely to be a repeat offender, particularly when it involves children. And in those circumstances, to me, protecting the public and protecting our children becomes absolutely paramount. And so in those circumstances, certainly I would be prepared to support and encourage amending legislation to specifically treat with those types of offenses, because it sends the signal that from a value and a judgment perspective, we need to indicate that these are things we condemn to the highest level. And as I said, I mean, there's all kind of psychology and health and medical issues related to predatory behavior and so on. But in some of those circumstances, I'm not so sure that people can be reformed. That is the offenders. And if in fact they can't be, then to my view, our job is to protect the public from them at I wouldn't say at all costs, but as much as possible. So the answer to your question is yes.
To the young Esther Patterson, 14 years old of Carriacou, we apologize. No one was there to save you from the wrath of sexual abuse. We sympathize with your family and friends, especially your siblings and your classmates. To your mom, if the rumors are true, her blood is on your hands, and you should be charged as well. I make no apologies for saying so. Yet still, my condolences to you. Esther, may your soul rest in perfect peace. We'll take a quick break and come right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. Well. The Prime Minister finally showed up, and what an entrance it was. We have to discuss that. We're going to dissect the press conference. But before that, before we get to the meat of the matter, I need to say this to all guilty as charged. People, please, I'm begging, drop the phrase would have, unless used in its correct context. It's been bothering me for some time. You know, I'm no English major, and I'm not pretending to be, but you see this would have thing, we have to stop. The whole nation saying would have now. Principal uses it. Teachers uses it. Professionals, corporate workers, managers, CEO, directors, announcers, hosts, secondary and tertiary school students, permanent secretaries, senior officials, politicians. But when I heard it coming from the Prime Minister, the leader of our country, and this is not the first time I've heard him say that, but in the press conference, like 3 or 4 times, I said, no, I have to speak about it. And I'm going to use this platform to speak about it. Let's hear him using it. So you don't say, I lied, the Prime Minister did it.
By the 21st of February, 2024, the Grenadian police would have received correspondence from the Vincentian counterparts. On the same date, the 22nd of February, the commissioner would have further briefed me.
Okay, the commissioner would have further briefed. Did he or did he not do the briefing? There were more down, but you know, I just need to show you an example. I've heard it so often that, and it sounds so good, it sounds so correct, that I myself sometimes wonder if it isn't correct. And I do believe that most of the person using it, hearing it, is sounding so good that they just latch on. And so now everybody is using this would have. When you have principals and teachers, the Minister of Education that's be using would have in the wrong place. When something already happened, it could not, you cannot use if would have, because it happened. If it didn't happen for whatever reason, then we could say would have. Now that's that. It's off my chest. I'm going to get a good night's sleep tonight. It's over and done. Let's get to the meat of the matter. On Tuesday, the 12th February at 10 a.m. on time, the Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell, along with the Commissioner Don McKenzie and Acting Commissioner Vanny Cohen, held a press conference. And this was a snippet of his introduction.
I will use the opportunity this morning to discuss with the nation recent developments pertaining to some high-profile criminal cases that transpired, particularly during the week of 18th February to 23rd of February. Many of these incidents have attracted the attention, naturally so, of citizens who are concerned. One incident in particular has made regional and international news. And there's been much debate and much public comment about those incidents. I want to start off by pointing out that when we are treating with criminal matters that are ongoing and under investigation, it is important for us to give the police the opportunity to in fact carry out their work with as much flexibility, with as much integrity as is possible. And it is important for us to appreciate that at the political level, we ought not to make public comments prior to being briefed fully and prior to having a full appreciation of the state of affairs, especially when the affairs are fluid, ongoing, and have not reached a conclusive or determined outcome.
We ought not to make public comment. The comments you would come to make, Mr. Prime Minister, doesn't have to be on the investigation at the time. And if the police take months, right? You said, so if the police work, we have to wait till the police do what they have to do before you speak. If that takes months, you're going to take months before you come and at least give us an assurance or show some compassion to the victims, the families of the victims. And where you get that, is that law that we ought not to make public comment? You can come out, you can speak out on the incident. I mean, if we just remember, and like when an incident like that might happen in the US, for instance, the same day, you have the mayor, the governor, the council people, the police chief, the everybody, about 12 of them sometimes stand up in the back whilst the mayor was giving, the assurance to the people that they're dealing with this thing and this is what happened, and they leave no stone unturned. So you can come and tell us that. You don't have to wait. There's no law that says you don't speak, you ought not to make public comment. Says no. You have to show leadership. You don't just sit and wait. And this is just something you're using because by now you're embarrassed that so many are calling for you to come out and you have not said anything. So you trump up a reason why you ought not to come and make a comment. Hogwash. Hogwash. You can come and give us a little bit of reassurance or assurances. You can speak to say that, well, the RGPF is working assiduously to catch the guys. Come and tell the nation something as the leader of the country. The Prime Minister said he was briefed on the 18th and on the 22nd of February, and that he was kept fully abreast by the Commissioner of Police while in Guyana. Let's hear him.
So I want to first start with the escape of the 3 prisoners at the South St. George Police Station, which occurred on 18 February 2024. On the 18th of February, I was briefed fully by the Commissioner of Police that a report emanating from the station had indicated that 3 prisoners, Ron Mitchell, Trevor Robertson, and Ativa Stanislaus, all of Paradise St. Andrew, had escaped custody. I wish to indicate that the Commissioner himself indicated that on that very day, he would be attending the South St. George Police Station himself to make inquiries into this incident.
Thank you very much. Final question.
By the 21st of February, 2024, the Grenadian police would have received correspondence from the Vincentian counterparts indicating that an abandoned yacht, the sailing vessel Simplicity, had been anchored at the entrance of the Wali Labu anchorage in St. Vincent, and that research indicated that the yacht had been ransacked. There appeared to be evidence of blood on the yacht. There was no one found on the yacht, and the passports of two persons, Kathleen Marie Brandel and Ralph Herman Henry, had been found on the yacht. On the same date, the 22nd of February, the commissioner would have further briefed me that his Vincentian counterpart had indicated that the three men who escaped from the South St. George police station were now in the custody of Vincentian authorities, and that in fact one of them had been shot. The preliminary investigation suggested that the three men may have been responsible for the vandalizing of the yacht, for the yacht being anchored in St. Vincent, and possibly for the disappearance of the two persons aboard the yacht. As the citizens of Grenada would be aware, on the 23rd of February, I actually traveled to Guyana to attend the CARICOM conference. And as the incoming chair of CARICOM in July, which Grenada will chair, it was important for me to attend this meeting because Grenada now forms part of what is called the Bureau of CARICOM, which consists of the outgoing chair, the current chair, and the incoming chair.
I believe you used would have in the right place this time, because according to the commissioner, he did not brief you on the 22nd. So he would have briefed you in your mind. But according to him, let's see when he briefed you.
Have you had a conversation with the Minister of National Security since all of this happened, sir? I know he was off pilot.
I have had a matter of fact, last Tuesday, the entire executive sat with the Minister of National Security to discuss pertinent issues regarding the police force.
Just to let you all know that last Tuesday was Tuesday the 20th of February. The Prime Minister said he was briefed on the 22nd and throughout his stay in Guyana. The 20th of February, according to the commissioner, that's when he had a conversation with the Prime Minister, point blank. Right? The press conference of the RPF was held on the 26th of February, right? So by that time, the Prime Minister was already in Guyana, and he said he was kept up to abreast fully by the commissioner. He was already there, but when the commissioner was asked, when was the last time he communicated with the Prime Minister, well, not the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, he said on Tuesday, which was the 20th of February. The Prime Minister said he would have been briefed on the 22nd of February. Okay, so you guys remember the infamous sentence, I am satisfied that if protocol was followed, the three young men should not have escaped. Let's hear the Prime Minister on that sentence.
Now, on the 25th of February, when the press conference was held, the Commissioner of Police made it clear that from his preliminary investigation, that he was satisfied that if the proper standing police protocols were followed, the men should not have escaped. The investigation has now concluded, and that pronouncement by the Commissioner of Police remains unchanged. And it remains unchanged because the investigation has revealed that the 4 individual cells at the South St. George Police Station had secure, functioning, and proper locking mechanisms. However, the 4 the 3 prisoners had not been placed inside of the individual cells which had the secure locking mechanism. But instead, at the time of the escape, they were in a corridor which had burglar bars and which were immediately located outside of the 3 or 4 individual locking cells. By their being there, it allowed them to bend the wrought iron or iron grill that secures that corridor area and to escape. It is therefore clear that had the men been placed in the individual locking cells, which had proper and functioning locking mechanisms, that they would not have escaped or had the opportunity to escape. Further, warnings had been issued at least 2 days prior that the men were high risk and were also a flight risk. And therefore, based on those warnings, it was even more important to ensure that all of the standard operating procedures were followed to minimize any risk associated with the prisoners being at the police station. The investigation, therefore, has concluded that there was a failure to heed the crucial alerts, a failure to follow the standard operating procedures. There was clear supervisory negligence and improper shift handovers, and that those factors contributed to the opportunity being presented to the prisoners to escape. So in summary, it is accepted by the police that human error, primarily in the form of negligence, played a pivotal role in the escape of the officers. I want to highlight that I have full confidence in the Commissioner of Police and the executive and management of the police. And I have full confidence in the officers of the police service. And that confidence is also based in the fact that I expect, and our conference here this morning demonstrates, that the police, the leadership of the police, is prepared to hold the institution of the police accountable in circumstances where officers fall below the expected standard of behavior. I will also point out, however, that as Minister for National Security, we do not think it wise or sensible for us as citizens of Grenada to malign the police or to disrespect the police.
Clear supervisory negligence. Remember that 3 words in that phrase. Clear supervisory negligence. By the way, Prime Minister, the conference was held, the RGPF press conference was held on the 26th of February and not the 25th of February. I am satisfied that if protocol was followed, there should be no escape. There's something not adding up here. There's something, the commissioner and the acting commissioner, they were asked several times about the cell and if it was adequately secured. Several times, more than one media worker, journalist, keep pressing. And all we got from the commissioner is that he was satisfied that if protocol was followed, there should be no escape. Now the Prime Minister is telling us that the 3 escapees, the 3 criminals, were not even in a cell. And they have 4 cells locked up there, empty. And they kept these 3 criminals in a corridor. But let's hear again what the commissioner said, because we have to try and piece this thing together. Let's hear what the commissioner said when he was asked.
There was a prisoner that escaped from the south before, and recommendations were made in terms of beefing up security. You, as the principal officer in RGPF, did you do what had to be done in terms of the recommendation?
As I said, Mr. Wong, that even after I visited the Southern Judge Police Station, immediately after the information that that the guys escaped, I am still satisfied that if protocols are followed, the cell is a safe place.
The protocols were followed, you say? If it were followed, I didn't hear you clear.
That is the subject of our investigation. I am satisfied that the protocols that we have in place, if it was followed, it should not lead to the escape, even immediately after the report of the escape.
But my question is, did you do what had to be done based on the recommendations? And you're not answering that question.
You're asking me whether the cells are safe. And I'm saying to you, even after that point, the cells were safe.
What about the issue with the door? We understand there's an issue with the door there and the cell, that it cannot lock properly. We're hearing that.
I wish not to go into that detail. I just hope that you accept that I am saying that immediately after that, I was satisfied that the protocols, given the security arrangements and the structure of that cell, we should not have an escape.
Now, according to the Prime Minister, if no one was in the cell, how do you know, Commissioner, that it was safe? You don't know because there was nobody in there, so nobody could have escaped it. So how do you know it was safe? It's locked up and it's empty. You already had visited the station, and you knew that there was no one in the cell, if we take in what the Prime Minister say as gospel. You and Acting Commissioner Cohen came in a press conference on behalf of the RGPF and told us that that you were satisfied that if protocol was followed over and over and over and over. Did not say to us that the guys were not in the cell and that they were sitting on a bench in a corridor. 3 hardcore criminals. And you either deliberately deceived us or you didn't know, right? You're the commissioner, and Acting Commissioner Cohen is in charge of crime. The Prime Minister further said that the men were high risk and flight risk. And you put them in a corridor. And neither you, Commissioner, or the acting, or your acting commissioner in charge of crime did not make sure these 3 men who were high risk and flight risk were properly secured in a cell, in individual cells. You didn't make sure that that happened. Clear, what the Prime Minister said? Clear supervisory negligence. Clear supervisory negligence. And so you left them in the corridor, or you didn't check to make sure that they were secure. Mr. Cohen, you in charge of crime, right? But yet he has full confidence in you both and the police force, full confidence. But I must say, he must. Why would he say no? He begged you to stay on as a retiree, as if you're that good. That's only how you just beg people to stay. Well, don't go. We can't do without you. He begged you to stay. And as soon as y'all came in, y'all give Cohen promotion, although he was under investigation, and we'll get to that part later. Who is a high risk? Let me tell you guys who is a high risk. A flight risk, flight risk. Someone who has been accused of a crime and is considered likely to try to escape out of the country or area before the trial begins. So they knew the guys might try to escape. But yet for all, they were able to hijack the yacht from the Pandy Beach Bay all the way to St. Vincent uninterrupted. But he have all the confidence in y'all. If I stand by my statement before they need to go, they need to resign. I say bare negligence. Prime Minister say clear negligence. And if the Prime Minister, if the Minister of National Security thinks and has all the confidence in you guys, I think he should go with y'all as well. I make no bones about saying that. Did you stop to think that if there wasn't such negligence, that Ralph Hendry and Kathy Brundle would have been alive today? Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Minister of National Security, did you stop to think that if there wasn't such negligence, that American couple would have been alive today? The Prime Minister said, and I quote, he would not accept, encourage, nor tolerate the maligning or disrespect of police officers. We wait for the or else, because that must have an or else following it. Or else what, Mr. Prime Minister? I do not condone disrespect, and I would not disrespect the police. But I can say it as a C, that they were not ready for that press conference, that they came across very incompetent, that they are a part of that clear negligence you spoke of. If that is disrespect, then I'm sorry, I will disrespect them. And so again, I say, when I say they must go, as a matter of fact, Mr. National Security Minister, if you so agree them, you so love them, they do nothing wrong, that you must go too. You will not accept, not tolerate. Okay, Daddy. Okay. So if the officers on duty was disciplined and charged on the morning of Tuesday, the 12th of March, according to the Prime Minister, here he tells us the charges laid against them.
So what has been done as a result of the findings of the investigation pertaining to the escape of the 3 prisoners? The Commissioner of Police and his team has already embarked on a number of initiatives. And I will start first with disciplinary action. Disciplinary action has been taken against, so far, 4 police officers who were charged this morning. Constable 224 Shah George, Constable 520 Baptiste, Corporal 624 Edwards, and Detective Sergeant Lewis. They have been charged with various offenses under the Police Act, ranging from making a false statement permitting the escape of a prisoner, and breaches of standing orders in various counts. These officers, however, are also entitled to due process and to have their fair day at the disciplinary hearing. The necessary procedures and safeguards will be put in place to ensure that they have proper representation and that they have the right to defend themselves. But when the process is completed, the chips will fall where they have to fall. Any crime, a single crime, one is one too many. And the persons who are victims of criminal activity and their families deserves our empathy, deserves our sympathy, but oftentimes they also deserve their privacy. And we need to be mindful that when there is criminal conduct, that someone is a victim. And we ought to have regard for the families and the victims of crime in our public pronouncements. And it is not a time to score cheap political points or to try to appear who is first out the block with a comment or with condemnation or with hysterical rhetoric, merely to appear as a strong man or a strong woman. Crime affects all of us, and they need to be discreet, empathetic, and sensitive, particularly when they are victims, should be borne in mind. That
was not the time or place, Mr. Prime Minister, to throw words. You know all about time and when it should, that was not the time. That was not the time to throw words. We're dealing with a serious matter with the world listening, but you come there throwing words at the leader of the opposition, who, as a matter of fact, was very prime ministerial and showed leadership when there was none. For days. It took you, Prime Minister, 24 days to make a statement. 24 days to make a statement. Because you're waiting to be briefed. And in the meantime, we just have to sit down here like sitting ducks. The RGPF, 9 days. I guess waiting to be briefed as well. Hogwash. Hogwash. That is a very poor excuse for your cold and callous behavior, Prime Minister. This is not accepted. You're waiting on who? Ernie and Butt, who couldn't even hold a proper press conference. That's a cop-out. No pun intended. That's a cop-out. This occasion called for a more sober or somber mode instead of this high-handed attitude you always come across with. Why the former Prime Minister, leader of His Majesty's opposition, he made a statement. He didn't throw words. He made a statement. And that's what opposition parties do. That's what they're supposed to do. They're the next leaders. They're the leaders in waiting. So there's nothing wrong with that. But the world is listening. And you come there with your high-handedness. Let's hear this clip from you.
I want to close by expressing, on my own behalf and on behalf of the Cabinet of Ministers and on behalf of the citizens of Grenada, to the victims and the families of victims who have suffered, certainly in the last 2 weeks in particular, from the actions of criminals, or profound empathy, or profound sorrow and regret, and to assure them that we will do everything that we can to make sure that those who perpetrated those crimes be held to account.
because you were called out, you refuse. You blatantly refuse to address the families of the two of the tourists that got murdered. You generalize it, and nothing wrong. Of course, we expect you to have sympathy for the Grenadians as well, who were whatever crime was committed against them. Of course, but you pay for that high-handedness. Moving along, the Prime Minister boasted of him asking retired officers to stay on board and bringing back some of them who had already left. As a matter of fact, I'm here. I've understand lately. It came to my understanding rather that someone who would be retiring in October of this year has already been asked to stay on and given a contract to stay on. You telling me about contracts that was term contracts are illegal and against the law? Another let's hear this clip.
The Commissioner of Police, ladies and gentlemen, is a retiree. He's a retiree. I've asked him to stay on. The Deputy Commissioner of Police is a retiree. We've asked him to stay on. ACP Charles is a retiree. We've asked him to stay on. I highlight those because we inherited a situation where there was not little, no succession planning when it comes to the leadership of the police service. We inherited a situation where the recruitment policy obviously was ill-advised because you have large amounts of police officers being recruited at the same age and departing the police force at the same age. The net effect of this is that it becomes very difficult to have succession planning because everybody has the same age and they're exiting all at the same time. I just highlight those issues so that we understand that we need to be a little less quick to draw conclusions that are oftentimes ill-formed with no factual basis. So we really should be grateful to the Commissioner and the senior executive of the police for staying on to assist us with transitioning to a place where we can have better succession planning, where we can have accelerated training of police officers so that the next generation of police officers can take forward the leadership of the police service.
Okay, so you brought them back on 1 year and 2 year contract. Is this you in this audio, sir?
When you are placed on 3 months contract, 6 months contract, 12 months contract, it is unlawful. It is illegal. And if it is going to take another High Court judgment to say that the government of Grenada cannot treat its own citizens that way by breaking the law, then so be it.
So who is that in that audio there saying contracts are illegal? I mean, loud and clear, aggressive even, that contracts are illegal. Threatening to even go to High Court judge and the works, you know, you always have to remind us that you are a lawyer. You said, Prime Minister, you brought back the retirees because there was no succession plan, that all the officers went to training at the same age, so they retired together. I never heard that before in my life. They handpicked these when they were recruiting them. They handpicked them. All of them were the same age, so all of them, and you know that is not true. Where you get your data from? Is that a fact, Prime Minister? Well, here are some facts. You know, the only way Simon Says knows how. First of all, it is not true to say there was no succession plan, because it is your government through your PSC that destroyed the succession plan on entering office in June 2022. What did you do? You reverted or demoted the senior officers who were perceived NNP supporters. And what if they are? They're Grenadians. And according to our constitution, they have the right to choose. What? Are we running a one-party state now? Former Commissioner of Police, Edwin Martin, overqualified for his position, was forced out of the RGPF while he still had 6 years before retirement. Apparently, the Minister of National Security refused to speak or communicate with him. So he had to communicate through other persons. Is it true, Minister of National Security? Is that true? And then turned around and said, and I'm paraphrasing here, he was too ill to continue. We all know what happened after that. He got a big job, and now he have a bigger job. And so the Turks and Caicos is happy to have him. While we here with Ernie, the Deputy Commissioner at the time of your entry, Tafawa Pay, was reverted to superintendent on your arrival. Your first casualty. His only sin is that he is the husband of a former Minister of Government, now opposition MP, Honorable Emily Pierre. He was removed from headquarters. He too has a few years left before retirement. I have with me his performance appraiser. From the period of review, February 2022 to February 2023. I need my glasses for this. Right? And they tell you at the front here, the grades: 5, outstanding; 4, significantly exceeds expectation; 3, fully capable; 2, needs improvement; and 1, unsatisfactory. Now, in this book of appraisal, Tafawa Pay, Deputy Commissioner Tafawa Pay at the time, because you're demoted, has nothing but 4s and 5s on his appraisal, in his appraisal book. 4 and 5. And let's remember, 5 is outstanding and 4 significantly exceeds expectation. Right? Now, administration, under administration, I should say. Planning, he got a 4. The officer is skilled in his area, makes good use of trends to set strategy, objectives, to research goals. Budgeting and economic management, he got another 4. Organization of work, he got a 5. Compliance, he got a 4. Problem solving and decision making, he got a 5. The officer is strong in identification and implementation to mitigating measures to treat with existing vulnerability gaps. Right? Under evaluation and control, he got a 4. Risk liability management, he got a 4. Understands the intricacy and risk exposure associated with the RGPF and employs correct methodologies. Interpersonal performance factor, oral communication 4, written communication 4, coordination, collaboration 5. This officer embraces the value of network and is able to attract talent at different levels to achieve desired goals. Staff appraisal and development, he got a 4. Has sound knowledge of the expectation of the organization and is able to design appropriate assessment. Effort and initiative 5. He constantly seeks innovative ways to address current and emerging challenges. Is a team player who contributes to overall organization success. Folks, I can go on and on and on. This here is not me that make it up. It's not his wife that make it up. It's not it came from the appraisal signature. I can understand the signature. They have an evaluator signature and the appraisal signature right here, right? They don't have it typed out, the name, right? We have objectivity, he got a 4. Makes unbiased decision based on particular circumstances. Credibility, he got a 5. He is confidential, trustworthy, and reliable. Like my glasses didn't help and I need 2. To provide advice based upon research and the thoughtfulness can rely upon to accomplish task assignment to expected standards. That's got a 5 on for credibility. Leadership, coaching, he got a 5. Is able to identify weakness in others and respond appropriately to remedy through coaching and membership. Empowering 4. Modeling 4. Team building 5. Has shown the ability to build and achieve and to build and cohesively keep team members together to achieve desired goals. Vision, he got a 4. Has shown the ability to identify and design programs to deal with impending challenges and overall development of the RGPF. Now, this gentleman here at the time was acting Deputy Commissioner of Police. And in my opinion, and if you listen to this, should be in yours as well. There are more, but we got to move on. Should have been promoted to Commissioner of Police when to acting Commissioner of Police. He was acting Deputy of Police. He should have been promoted to acting Commissioner of Police. And when you all forced Edwin Martin out, he probably should have been the next in line to be our Commissioner of Police, not Ernie. You call back Ernie. Ernie was on retirement. Ernie needed to go. The man is a good, nice man. Everybody says he's a nice gentleman. Well, let him go. And if he wants to keep on working, probably do something like deal with geriatrics or something where you take care of people, elderly, and you're very nice to them. But you demote a gentleman like this. And then you say, we had no succession planning. We had no succession planning. ACP John Mitchell was removed from operations and placed on a desk at the port, reverted to superintendent, also had several years before retirement. Superintendent Bernard Nelson was reverted from superintendent to assistant superintendent, removed from head of quarters removed from as head of special branch and placed on the port as well. Superintendent Wayne Wilson reverted from superintendent to assistant superintendent. He was also forced out and is now and took an early retirement. So he has left the force. And there's ACP David Nelson, not confirmed. Glenroy Corian, superintendent, reverted in 2023, put back now, and confirmed as superintendent as of January 16, 2024, a few weeks ago. So was Mr. Holly George, Mr. Linford Kingston, both not confirmed as a superintendent, while Trevor Rodney, Sheldon Thomas, Kenneth Bascom, Hudson Buckmeyer, and Garson Gill was all only just confirmed on January 16, 2024, in the rank of assistant superintendent. Why? Lack of manpower. You'll need them now. You'll need them now. In my mind, Ernie, even though he ain't reached retirement age, should retire. He should take early retirement. And by the way, the commissioner you have all this confidence in, isn't he the one as commissioner of prisons where the guns disappeared and ended up in St. Vincent, and he was removed as commissioner of prisons as a result? This one you have all this confidence in. And his assistant commissioner, Bert, when your government came in June 2022, wasn't he under investigation for two separate incidents? One, the infamous voice note that he had to listen 10 times to see if it was him, and then decide he was fishing. He was on the port deck or somewhere fishing. And of course, the saga between him and his lady friend, which it was alleged that one of them took his firearm from his vehicle. Well, I guess she had the spare to the car, while he was visiting another lady friend. Took the gun and pulled it at him and the lady friend. Alleged. And then got caught up in a cross-country car chase. Isn't that the same person now that you have all this confidence in? Is this the best we can do when it comes to leadership within the RGPF? Is it the best? I highly doubt. I mean, I just call out some names for you. And you say there was no succession planning and we had to wait till the recruits reach our point. And we had to deal with Ernie and Bert. Till then, I'll take a quick break and come right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. The thing heating up, it ain't done yet. We come to the question and answer section of the Prime Minister's press conference with his commissioner and acting commissioner that he has so much confidence in. I couldn't answer two questions in their own press conference. He had sitting on either side of him, mute for an entire press conference. Over an hour, I should say, not the entire press conference. I have to say that. Or an hour and minutes. Nothing until the question came up and they said a couple of words. Not even good morning to us. Hi, we here. Hello, I'm here. Ernie, and I'm Bert, and I'm here. Has anyone spoken to the families of the U.S. victims? Let's hear.
My first question, has anyone in the government or the police reached out to the family of the victims in the matter involving the escaped prisoners?
The Director of Public Prosecution, as far as I'm aware, have been speaking directly to the family of the persons who were impacted by the escape of the 3 prisoners.
With a smirk grin on his face, the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecution, play the next clip.
I have a question that maybe the police commissioner might be best able to answer, but anyone can answer it. To what extent was the inexperience of the 2 police officers who were in the police station between 2:30 and 5 a.m., as well as the short staff? I understand that a large number of your men were not working at the time, sick leave and holidays that they were entitled to, contribute to the opportunity for the men to escape. During your investigations, did that play a role at all? Particularly the 2 officers who I understand were just barely out of training school.
Pleasant good morning to the viewing and the listening public. Callistra, the supervisor at the time of the escape was a seasoned police officer, being down under the department for more than 10 years. So we are comfortable that he had the necessary knowledge. We are comfortable that he was capable had he obeyed the protocol. But we also have to back up that he, information revealed that he took over from a sergeant. So the question was he properly briefed? Was the prisoners where they were housed, was it the best place? Had they been in their cell, respective individual cells, I see no problems in him being able to effectively do his job without the escape of the individual.
He did not answer the question. He jumped on the supervisor, and was he properly briefed? Who you asking if he was properly briefed? You supposed to tell us whether or not he was properly briefed. You wait for all this time. The Prime Minister said he was waiting for the investigation to happen, and he ought not to speak before that. So now he's speaking. I guess all of that should take place. You tell us whether he was properly briefed. And she didn't ask you about them. She asked you about the rookies. She asked you about the rookies, and they were not just out of training school. They came out to go back. 5 weeks. They came out to go back, and that's a fact. They came out and they were supposed to be properly supervised. And then after a while, there's a new thing they're trying because they had to get these guys out of there quick enough because of low manpower issues, right? So he did not answer the question. And now he's telling us, he now decides to tell us that they were not where they were supposed to be because the Prime Minister sitting down next to him and the Prime Minister don't say that already. Whether or not that is so, we don't know. Because one said one thing and the next saying the other all the time. All the time. In 2023, after a string of gun violence in September of 2023, the Prime Minister, I think it was a briefing, I'm not sure it was a press conference, but the Prime Minister spoke of forming a National Security Advisory Council. Let's hear him.
Cabinet has appointed the formation of a National Security Advisory Council. We intend to have the council constituted. And the first order of business that it will be mandated to do is to carry out a series of national consultations, which we hope to commence in October, throughout the Tri-Island state with all of our stakeholders, looking at this question of national security, looking at how we can begin to implement the necessary policy and programs that treats with ensuring that as a nation, we do not view violence as a means of conducting ourselves or as a means of resolving our disputes or conflicts. We intend to back this up by contracting with specialists in the area of behavioral science that could address, particularly for young persons and particularly your young men, how we treat with mediating our differences and disputes amongst ourselves, amongst our family members, and amongst our villages. Because one of the clear things that is obvious about the acts of violence is that oftentimes the perpetrators and the victims know each other. Oftentimes they are either related or they're from the same villages or neighboring villages. And many times it escalates into acts of violence that may lead to maiming, injury, or worse, homicide. The government will also be constituting a project team to advise the government on the implementation of CCTV cameras throughout significant public areas and hotspots in Grenada. The government is already in possession of the CCTV cameras. We intend to obviously do the necessary feasibility studies to have them erected at many of the major urban centers and public gathering places where the public meets, from the market square, the main bus terminals, the areas that are heavily trafficked by the public, as well as other areas where we may be vulnerable, particularly in some of our coastal villages, where we believe we are vulnerable to firearm trafficking in particular.
Full stop. Sounds good, eh? What TV? ACT TV? On Tuesday, the 12th of March, at his press conference, he said they'll be forming a national security steering committee. Lest we forget, the first one that was formed was a national, or should have been formed, was a National Security Advisory Council. This one is a National Security Steering Committee, and he had the nerve to correct the media person, to tell her that this is a National Security Steering Committee. Let's hear.
Question I said earlier in his deliberation, the Prime Minister mentioned a steering committee with regard to crime. Can you tell us who are the members? When it was appointed, how long is the terms of reference, and who is chairing it? And he also made mention that the person from Carriacou, the elderly couple, died from drowning. Is that pronouncement based on an autopsy report?
All right. The pronouncement, I can't say it's made from an autopsy report, but it's essentially the brief I would have received from the police arising from the immediate aftermath of the incident. I mean, there may be a fancy medical term for drowning, but essentially all indication is that that is what they would have drowned on. I'm not so sure, Commissioner, whether the autopsy report is conducted and completed, but that's the response on that. The National Security Steering Committee, so let me make sure you get it right. It's a National Security Steering Committee. The committee is being chaired by me. I can't give you the specific names of all of the persons who make up the committee, but we can get that to you because it's a pretty large committee. As I said, it's made up of representatives from a broad cross-section of government entities and agencies, from the airport to the port to the customs to immigration to NADMA, to the Prime Minister's office, to the Commissioner of Police, etc. So we will get the complete list of names, members from the Attorney General's office, etc., and we will circulate that to you. The mandate of the steering committee essentially is to get to the point where it can make recommendations to the government for the actual creation of a National Security Council and the mechanism and the institutional framework for doing so, whether it's a statutory body, whether it's a department of the government, etc. Those are some of the things it is tasked with doing. I don't have the exact date that it was approved by Cabinet off the top of my head, but that can be supplied, as well as the duration of the steering committee. I believe initially it's for 1 year, or until it's able to fulfill its mandate of making the recommendations to the Cabinet. But I can, through the Press Secretary, provide you with very specific responses on the actual names of the committee, the date it was approved by Cabinet, and its detailed mandate.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, just to say that the Prime Minister's utterance is being supported by the postmortem. That as drowning was one of the cause of the succumbing, or the deaths.
Okay, so Bud came in there. You hear him, he agreed with the Prime Minister, but drowning was one of the cause. There's no autopsy to date, there's no autopsy, yeah? But we come to that a little bit later as well. But we must pay attention to both there. Drowning was one of the cause. Yeah. So in an effort of time, I couldn't bring that clip much longer, but he did this time around speak of CCTV being set up as well. Huh? Yeah, we get CCTV all over. He is the chairman, and that's all he knows, that he's the chairman. He knows nothing else. He don't know members of the steering committee. He doesn't know how long the committee is in for initially. He knows nothing else than he is the chairman. Moving along. Then a question from a journalist, Dr. Kellenberg. Let's hear.
Commissioner and the ACP. And Mr. Commissioner, while I ask this question, I do hope that you would have a much more open and communicative relationship with independent media, because ACP Cohen does not respond to our messages. But the follow-up question is, what is the current state of capacity in the Royal Grenada Police Force to deal with these challenges that the Prime Minister just articulated?
Sorry, I'm not so sure I even got your question clearly. There was a lot of ad-libbing before the question. So could you just repeat the specific question?
The specific question has to do with the current resource capacity of the force to be able to address a lot of the evolving kinds of crime that we are seeing in Grenada. And this is a question directed to the officers.
Kellan,
The senior leadership.
Good morning.
Yes.
I'd want to say that we continue to build. So as we speak at the moment, at our training school, we are operating at full capacity, which is recruits going through the third phase of their training, and that has moved from a 6 months to actually a 2 years duration. We also have training up at Pearls that speaks to the more military aspect of training. We also, on Monday, began a sergeant's development course that is carried to run for 2 weeks. In addition, we have persons, one of our ACPs is now, together with another senior officer, is out in the United States. As a matter of fact, we have a couple of people at the senior level in the United States. We have persons in Guyana, RSS. So what we can find locally, and the Prime Minister mentioned the issue of coordinating with some of our training, local training agency, the NTA. We intend to reach out to TAMCC. We intend to even reach out to SU to see what they can provide for us in terms of a sort of training that would assist us in getting to the officers to the level that that is required.
Deep breaths, deep breaths. The commissioner should also be charged for telling untruth. That's what they charged one of the young, the 5-week trained officers for. They say he was charged because he didn't give proper information. He told a lie, in other words. Commissioner, you should be charged. Where is the 2 years training taking place? And when did it start? Because nobody knows, no police officer, no training, no tutor, nobody knows of this 2 years training, and that's a lie. Plain, bold-faced lie. Even the 6-month training that you speak of that has turned into 2 years training. Then when you go get officers to put with all these officers that resign and run their way, well, we're in big trouble. No self-trouble. Houston, we have a problem. That's a lie. And the training has reduced. The 6-month training period has been shortened because of staff shortages, low manpower in the force. as a result of the mass exit of officers from the force since June 2022. The training now is for 3 months. And then there's this 5 weeks thing that I spoke about even from last week, that you take them out and because you need them, but they're supposed to be fully supervised. And then they would return to the training and to finish up their training. Wasn't the 2 rookies on the job that night in question part of that 5-week experiment, for want of a better word? Mr. Commissioner, sir, isn't the training at Pearls a part of the regular recruit training and not something new, as your tone suggested? Well, I'm still trying to find out about the 2 weeks training for the superintendent. I didn't get answer yet. I guess they're checking to see if that is so. Question: does the NTA, TAMCC, and SGU train in military? I don't understand that part. I don't say so. SGU and sensationalism, all sensationalism. You and your boss and your assistant. Don't we have a police training school? I don't understand where TAMCC and they come in. What would you look for training there for? Academic training at this point? Before you become an officer, you're supposed to have a certain amount of academic training, right? One media worker went off topic and asked about the low-income housing, and it hit right because I already had that down to speak this week. Because I have, Simon says, we ask persons to tell us what they would like to know about, what they would like to hear Simon says speak about, and that was one of the topics. So this week, I was going to deal with the Housing Authority and the houses. Let's hear the clip.
My next question is not related to what you spoke about. It's relating to the Housing Authority. What is happening with the distribution of the houses? Persons have complained that their loans are ready, it's ready for disbursement, but the keys are not handed over, and the money, the exchange between them and the Housing Authority is not happening. Can you give us an update on that?
Right. So the last update I had from the Housing Authority on the issue was that commencing as of last week, all the necessary paperwork that was required to have the distribution of the houses commence was completed, and starting with the current site, that distribution should be taking place in the next 2 weeks.
The next 2 weeks. They like that, huh? The next 2 weeks. You know many things that were supposed to happen in 2 weeks that months and years done pass, year and some done pass in the next 2 weeks. Let's hear the Honorable Prime Minister when he was on the campaign trail as leader of the NDC.
Temporary housing while they can catch themselves. It is criminal to have a woman with children in those conditions, and you have the current housing scheme provided by the people of China still locked up, still closed up, an entire year after it was handed over to you by the Chinese government. So you prefer your people to remain homeless and to be on the street than to give them housing that was not provided by you, that was not built by you, but that is part of a grant from the Chinese government, yet you have security guarding the complex. The complex is empty, and our citizens can't even drive down to examine the quality of the housing. Under the National Democratic Congress government, that will end. And the people in our communities who are vulnerable and who need the houses will be given the houses. But I want to go further and say this.
criminal, to keep the house locked up and not give to the people, the vulnerable people, listen to that word. The houses were not built by you, and in reference to the former administration, it wasn't built by you. It was given to you to give to the vulnerable people who can't afford houses on their own. Paraphrasing here. But what catch me is that it is criminal to keep the house locked up for almost a year after it was given to the NNP administration. So now we are almost 2 years, 21 months, 3 months short of 2 years, and the house is still locked up. That past criminal going. Well, I know a past criminal, but it's criminal, right? And now that the issue is on the other foot, the houses are not for the poor and vulnerable anymore, The houses that was given to us by the Chinese to give to the poor and vulnerable, that the NMP had locked up. Because we now sending them to the bank to borrow money, 55,000 and 75,000 or how much. We're going to find it out from the chairman. Right? So that they could purchase the houses, the apartments, or better yet, the condominiums on there. Well, let's hear from the chairman.
So as we go down the road, we would see that ownership of the units from the start is the way to go. We would transfer into your hands over 60 an equity or wealth directly into your hands immediately as you purchase these units. We are asking people to do one of two things. If you have the full amount, you could come to the Housing Authority and buy it straight from the Housing Authority. If you don't, then you will need a loan from any of the financial institutions. The Housing Authority of Grenada contacted the financial institutions before, and they are on board, and they're eager and they're willing. They are going to be offering loans. We had suggested at 3%, and it will go from maybe between 3 and 5%. But we really got the assurance of some that they would stick to the 3%. The cost of a single one-bedroom unit is $55,000. And the cost of a single two-bedroom unit is $73,000.
That press conference was held on October the 3rd, 2023. And as you hear the chairman there, they expect that there might be low-income earners who have $55,000 and $73,000 sitting somewhere that they can take it up and come straight to them and purchase these apartments. Remember, it's apartments that they purchase, and not houses. They between two others or maybe on end of one or one, right? Apartments. $55,000 and $73,000. If they have that sitting somewhere there, then you can come straight to the Housing Authority and purchase that. If not, then you have to go to a financial institution. We've been down that road so many times. All of that was gimmick. Let's hear from the accountant.
The financing. Selected applicants will be contacted by the authority to visit our office first to collect the notice of offer to purchase. The applicant will then be required to seek financing to confirm the purchase of the unit, or if they have the finance, they can arrange for direct purchase from HAG. I repeat, you will be required to seek financing to confirm the purchase of the unit, or you can arrange for direct purchase from HAG if your financing is available. So it means that collecting the notice of offer to purchase does not guarantee purchase of the unit. A meeting was held between the authority, the banks, and other financial institutions on September 22nd, 2023. Insurance brokers were also present, who were all on board with us with the financing process. So there is nothing for the potential homeowners to worry about. The banks are already on board. The credit unions are on board. The lending institutions and insurance brokers are already on board.
Okay. We know also since then that was also a lie. Everybody on board, and it's just like a 1, 2, 3 step. You have no issues. You just go to the bank and get. That was a lie. We know that as well. Let's hear the accountant did say that when you get, but she did say that when you get your letter, it doesn't mean that you'll get the house, because they know that you have to go through the rigorous process of getting the loan. And the low income earners, according to the Prime Minister, especially if you're on contract. If you're on contract, you're getting a loan, much less if you don't have a job or you have a part-time jobs, devotion, and that type of thing. No loan. Okay, let's say the law.
We have been speaking about the whole question of giving you a unit. And when we speak of a unit, we mean a condominium unit pursuant to the Condominium Act of Grenada, which came into effect since 1978, but has not really been used. But the Housing Authority has decided, based on the construction and how they wish to dispose of these units, to use the Condominium Act. And what does that mean? The Condominium Act means that we are giving persons a freehold interest in a complex. So you own, so when you walk in and you turn your key, it is your unit. You don't have a landlord, you are now the owner. What is the benefit of having the condominium unit, having the condo unit, which is a freehold, as opposed to leasehold? You don't have a landlord. When you have leasehold property, you have a landlord and you operate on specific terms of the landlord. You breach those terms, you are out of that property. The condo unit is a little bit different. So if I may just go into a little detail, it is an individually owned residential unit in a complex of buildings. The condo owners own their units, but share common spaces and amenities. So in that regard, you will share your common spaces, and that will be governed by the Homeowners Association.
Okay. You don't have a landlord. You are now the owner. That is a lie. Because if you're sending them to the bank and other financial institutions to get their money, they pay you, you get your money and you're happy. But they have to pay the bank or the credit union or wherever they get their money borrowed from. And that's the owner. Whoever they're paying is the owner of the condominium, not them, until they finish paying for it. Right? So you get your thing, your keys, you turn your key and you're the owner. That is not true. That is falsehood, and that is not true. But there are those who manage to get the loan, not a lot, and they have the money, or there's one person who told me they're already paying back for the loan, and they have no key, they have no equity, as you call it. They're buying equity, they have nothing. And there are those that are just sitting there waiting for you guys, who we ain't seen since then. Y'all didn't come back to tell us nothing. But these guys were supposed to get their keys for Christmas. And this is on 21 months since you're in office. And it's criminal to have these people locked out. That's to be criminal. Listen, foot and mouth disease take over, you know. Foot and mouth disease take over. Air catching. Let's say the chairman, as he was on one of the morning programs, the To The Point program, the GBN To The Point program. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ain't come back in front of us after all this nonsense he spoke there.
Ultimately, with condominiums, there is a maintenance issue. Personally, I don't believe they work well in the lower income bracket. I think condominiums, when you look at it in the States and stuff, it works better in a higher income bracket because people know they have to pay maintenance costs. All right? Regardless of what you pay for the condominium. Now, what we have asked the financial institutions is that please cater for persons who are self-employed, in that don't do the loans that they have to pay every month. You could probably change it up to every 3 months, every 4 months, twice a year, because when they get that lump sum, they can come in and pay. So we have asked them, I mean, it's up to the financial institution, but we have asked them, just as how NIS has gotten to the point where self-employed people paying NIS could come in and pay in chunks rather than every month. So that is on board. We have had 2 credit unions coming back to us immediately and saying, hey, you're going to get it under 5%. Probably closely around 4, a little bit under 4%. So they're very close to what I'm talking about here. In the one that is $73,000, if you take it for 30 years, and they're willing to give 30 years, you will only pay at 3% $308
per month.
Per month.
Okay.
All right? But even at 4%, you'll be able to pay about just around $400 or a little less than that. All right? Per month. So it depends on where you are. If you tell the financial institutions that I could only pay $350, they will decide with the interest rate how many years they could give you for that. It's not so hard. No, the others haven't come back to us yet, and we're waiting for NIS and the other regular banks and so forth to come back. But we know for sure you can get up to 30 years. We know for sure all they're asking you for, like couple of the credit unions, is your job letter. And you, just as how you fill out in the bank, what are your liabilities? In other words, what are your expenses for the month?
Your budget.
Your budget,
Yeah.
right? Some might ask you to join, and others might not ask you to join. They just get it straight off.
Lies, lot of lies. I spoke to credit officers in the banks. You see, he said they're waiting on them to come back. Let them wait. Don't hold his breath. They're not coming back because they're not taking part in that, I was told. And 30 years is the worst yet. Not for an apartment that is between two. No, they're not, the bank's not taking part in that, right? And I would like him to direct me to the bank or the financial institution that is taking lump sum payments and not monthly. They're bank up and you pay every 2 or 3 times for the year. I would love for him to direct me to that institution where that happens. Let's hear the final clip.
And you should ask yourself, why does a nation have to wait till a foreign body give them buildings for home, and the nation can build it for themselves?
Well, not necessarily homes, houses.
Houses.
Yeah.
Houses.
Because there's a difference between
a house and a home.
Yes.
Right? A nation's supposed to be able to take care of its at some level, to take care of persons.
Not necessarily homes. Houses. Mr. Thomas, they don't have to, you know. We were told by the Prime Minister that they're going to be providing 500 houses annually for us, Grenadian-style houses. If you think I like less him.
But let me tell the woman in St. David, you have to take no formal lumber under the National Democratic Congress to get your house. So when the National Democratic Congress implements its housing plan, and I'm going to tell you about it, within 12 months of forming the government, the National Democratic Congress will start a nationwide housing program. That program will be done in conjunction with the private sector, so we will have a public-private partnership. And we will commence building 500 Grenadian-style homes in each parish. And we will do so each year thereafter, so that our citizens of Grenada can live in affordable housing, not apartments, with their front yard or their backyard that they can improve in their own image, shape, and likeness over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So that when you retire, you can pass on a part of Grenada to your children and to your grandchildren, and you could say to them, that was the vision of the National Democratic Congress.
Where them hoes day? Where the day? And that wasn't just it, because, it's easy to say that was a campaign thing, they say all kind of thing on campaign, blah, blah, blah. This is the Prime Minister. After they came into office in the Parliament of Grenada on budget day with an allocation for 500 houses starting in Stony Gut, St. John.
Our commitment in this term, Mr. Speaker, is to deliver 500 high-quality, climate-resilient Grenadian-style houses. Two major initiatives in this budget cycle include: 1, the Stony Gut Climate Resilient Housing Development Pilot Project, which aims to construct modern, high-quality, climate-resilient Grenadian-style homes in Stony Gut in the parish of St. John. Construction is expected to start in 2023, Mr. Speaker, and $2.5 million has been budgeted. Mr. Speaker, government will identify and secure lands in all parishes to roll out these houses. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, we have allocated $2.4 million to retrofit and upgrade the affordable houses that have been graciously donated by the People's Republic of China. We commit to the allocation of the 647 units no later than June of 2023.
We need the Ministry of Health to step in. The foot and mouth disease has become a pandemic. While on housing, I had a conversation with a resident from Lacalome. And you guys might have been hearing lately this Lacalome story. I heard there was a voice note going around with a gentleman speaking about they came and tell us we had to pay for the land that we're on now. So I spoke to a resident of Lacalome, because the truth is, when I heard the voice note, I did not believe it. And I have in my possession here a letter, and we're going to put it up for you as well. You're up on your screen now. From the Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs. Now, the letter reads, and quickly, it's a very short letter. Put on my glasses. It says, residents, Lacalome Housing Development, Wester Hall, St. David's, dear residents, please be informed that Mr. Joseph Noel, housing consultant, and Mr. Desmond Joseph, housing officer within the Ministry of Housing, Community Development, Social Services, and Gender Affairs will be visiting the Lacalome Housing Development for the purpose of carrying out a study to determine the direction the ministry should take to provide future title and ownership of residents' property. As a consequence of the foregoing, the two officers will gather information and obtain feedback from you, the residents, by administering a simple questionnaire. Your cooperation and respect in this matter will be greatly appreciated. Sincerely, and it came from the Permanent Secretary of the Community and Housing, Mr. Finley Jeffrey. Now, I thought he was in ICT, so it looked as though we really don't have an ICT ministry in truth. Anyway, so in speaking to the resident, they mentioned to me that they told them when they came that Mr. Noel, who apparently has a house in Lacaloon. If he lives in there, it's another story. But he has a house in Lacaloon. Well, nicely done, apparently. That they have to pay for the lands around the house. Now, that wasn't apparently accounted for. Let's not forget, or lest we forget, NDC was in office when the house was distributed, the Lacaloon houses was distributed. As a matter of fact, the person I spoke to told me is that they had their house since 2010, 14 years, 14 years, right? So this person, this Mr. Noel is telling them, asking what you could pay, just pay anything, you could pay any, coming from the ministry of government, we taking anything, that sounds like a movie, unreal, right? What you could pay and showing them which is not theirs, piece of land in front there, the people, some of them have their little kitchen garden and telling them that's not theirs and they have to pay for it. While another resident in Lacaloon, an NDC apologist, telling them and been telling them from before, years before, always that individual telling them that they have their title, their original title to their property, but it's never forthcoming. She never gave it to them, but she's telling them that. So Mr. Noel is promising them by that letter the title. If they finish, pay up for the land around them. Now they have to pay. Even if you finish pay for the house that you was on, and a lot of them don't deteriorate and probably need renovating already, not probably needs renovation, that's okay, but you have to now pay for the land around. That's so wrong. This piece in the front of the veranda and that piece in the back of the yard and that sort of thing. But don't have to say 25 cents per square foot. What you could pay, how much you could pay, give us anything, is what they were told. I'll keep you posted on the Lacaloon saga as it continues. Nothing the NDC touch goes smoothly. I mean, I don't understand it. Nothing goes smoothly. To wrap up, because we're still on that, the Prime Minister's press conference, we sidetracked because, as I said, this media person went off track to ask about the housing. The Prime Minister ended his meeting by mentioning about the elderly British couple who both collapsed while walking on the Paradise Beach in Carriacou. Again, he decided to throw words and talk about who spreading false information. Let's hear it. You know, it's Queen Tebe we have there, right? Let's hear it.
I just want to highlight finally as well, because the island of Carriacou had it a bit rough. As you, in addition to the incident of the homicide of the young lady, 2 visitors to the island drowned while at the lower end of Paradise Beach. Again, I saw media reports which were inaccurate, which were suggestive, and perhaps, again, in an attempt to be the first to the draw rather than making sure the facts were clearly articulated, misrepresented what actually happened. It was a drowning accident. The family members of the victims were in fact on the beach at the time as well. Everything was done by the police and the medics to try and save the persons. Regrettably, their lives were lost, and we extend our condolences to their families.
First of all, locally, I've heard nothing about the cause of death. I don't know if you heard, I don't know whether the Prime Minister saw these articles. I've heard nothing about the cause of death. What we heard was that the gentleman collapsed and the wife trying to help him, she collapsed as well. For what I understood, they were not swimming, they were walking the beach. That's what I understood. Okay, so I don't know, even false information and all this drama. There was no need for that. Again, you're speaking to the world and you're speaking about international individuals. Now, to date, as far as I know, we have not had the result of an autopsy. Don't forget, John T. died from drowning initially, yeah? Don't forget. Now, secondly, the Prime Minister said the RGPF and the medics were, we have medics? I didn't know we have medics in all this. I'm so happy to hear we have medics. Hey, this is a new thing for me. Now, the RGPF and the medics were trying to save the lives of the couple. By the way, do we have Caucasians within the RGPF? Because from the clip I saw, and it might be a little graphic, but I have to show you guys this. Because I don't know if these people are members of the RGPF. You all might be able to tell us. Coming from Caracas, somebody has to tell me if these people are members of the RGPF or maybe they're the medics. Right? Let's say it.
Yeah, I'd like to go.
So these are members of the medics. The couple were not swimming. They weren't walking. We've heard from the BBC about a heart attack. Of course, because initially, if the guy collapsed, what do you think of? Not a heart attack or something like that? If he fell in the water and water got into his lungs after that, maybe. But, and the wife, when she fell, of course, trying to save him, she might have gotten in more water than him because she was still alive, right? So we await the autopsy before we start running our mouths on drowning, and who died from drowning. I take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up this episode of Simon Says.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. I want to share a clip with you, and there's some might say it's simple and it's but you might need to ponder on this for a minute and see where we're heading or where we already have gotten to. Look at the clip.
And it is one of the, I would say that as the character, it's one of the platforms that scouts look forward to, because every year they call, some people don't know it, but there are a number of scouts that's in that stadium looking at talent.
Yeah. Scouting for talent.
Yeah.
Scouting for talent.
There's a minister.
So that's as we are about to actually wrap to what I would take a final comment from each of you.
Now, when I saw somebody send this to me and not knowing who it was, right? I sent it to a friend of mine and they said to me, I bet you that's Claudette. I said, why would you say that? No, man, come on. And they said, yeah, because I saw her in two separate occasions behave in that manner. And indeed it was. One can clearly see and hear the disbelief in Mr. Ashby's voice and in his reaction as he said, that's the minister. He was shocked at that behavior. What I understand is that our most competent press secretary schedule an interview with the Minister of Legal Affairs, AG, And I think it was Mr. Gilchrist, Dr. Gilchrist, and so to deal with the minimum wage thing on GIS. But she scheduled at the same time as this program that Sherry and Noel normally have been hosting since the whole anniversary celebration. I think that was the 6th episode. It's called Journey to 50. And she had 3 distinguished educators with her. Miss Glenda Mason Francis, OB, former principal of the Anglican High School between 1984 and 1999. Before that, a teacher at the Grenada Boys Secondary School from 1965 to 1984. Mr. Victor Ashby, former principal of the Grenada Boys Secondary School, GBSS, from 1980 to 2007. And Mr. Francis Julian, aka Cressy, former principal of St. Andrew Anglican Secondary School from 1996 to 2002. Then the Pongin came. And apparently not without voiced derogatory statements that we couldn't hear, but speaking to persons at the GIS, this is what we do. The staff of the GIS is right up there with the RGPF when it comes to their morale. They are treated badly by the new management, who, as I understand it, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars apparently restructuring the GIS. The workers, most of the time, are walking around on eggshells. I compliment the host of the show, Ms. Sherry Noel, for keeping her composure. And after the shock of it, and she pulled back, and maintaining her professionalism. As for Cindy, daughter, I hope you didn't kick down that ladder when you got to the top. I leave you with this clip.
Let me see her. Let me check her. Boy,
Paul, in the words of Mr. Victor Ashby, that is a minister. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It was a pleasure conversing with you today. You guys are going to be happy. You got a double, right? Thank you for joining us on Simon Says, where fact comes first and where we keep them honest. See you next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Simon Says.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.